their territories. The idea of creating the zone was initially put forward by Uzbekistan in September 1993 at the 47th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. After many years of negotiation, including with nuclear weapon states, signing ceremony of the Treaty on the Zone was held in 2006 in the city of Semipalatinsk in Kazakhstan. It is symbolic that the treaty was concluded in the region where one of the world's largest nuclear test sites was closed in 1991, and the Soviet authorities has conducted 456 nuclear tests for over 4 decades. Since then, the Kyrgyz Republic officially has been performing the functions of the depository of the treaty. Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues, the Central Asian Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone has a number of special features. This is the first zone located entirely in the Northern Hemisphere and in a landlocked region between 2 nuclear powers. Paradoxically, the Semipalatinsk test site used to be the only testing venue in the region where in the past nuclear weapons had been actively tested and deployed. In this context, noting the importance of the environmental rehabilitation of territories affected by radioactive waste, we urge all governments and international organizations that have expertise in the field of cleanup and disposal of radioactive contaminants to consider giving appropriate assistance to the Central Asian states for radiological assessment and remediation of former test sites, as well as uranium extraction plants. Undoubtedly, such a declaration of the Central Asian region, affirming to be a nuclear weapon-free zone located in the heart of the vast Eurasian continent, significantly enhances the security and stability in this expansive geopolitical space. We hope that such security and cooperation-based domain across our areas will continue to expand so that one day our entire planet can turn into a single nuclear weapon-free zone. We stay committed to enhance partnership with the existing nuclear weapon-free zones with the aim of strengthening the NPT regime and uniting international efforts to ensure peace and security. This was reaffirmed by our heads of states at the consultative meeting of the Central Asian states in August 2021 in Turkmenbashi, Turkmenistan. On August 2019, Kazakhstan and the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs co-organized in the capital city of Nur-Sultan international seminar on fostering cooperation and enhancing consultation mechanism among the existing nuclear weapon-free zones. The seminar gathered representatives of all nuclear weapon-free zones in Mongolia, as well as experts from relevant international organizations. At this point, as a joint project of Kazakhstan and UNODA, we invite to visit the web portal launched in February 2021, which is dedicated to strengthen cooperation between nuclear weapon-free zones and further enable their contribution to the pursuit of a world free of nuclear weapons. Dear colleagues, on 6 May 2014, the high-ranking representatives of nuclear weapon states, P5, signed the protocol of negative security assurances to the members of the Treaty on Non-Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone in Central Asia, in the presence of the state parties to the treaty. The protocol is an integral part of the treaty and provides security assistance against the use of or threat of use of nuclear weapons to the Central Asian states. The protocol to the treaty has been so far ratified by the 4 nuclear weapons states, and we express the hope to secure the earliest ratification of the protocol by the United States so as to finalize the institutionalization of the nuclear weapon-free zone in Central Asia. I would like to reiterate that the establishment of nuclear weapon-free zones is one of the strongest universal instruments preventing the proliferation of nuclear weapons and bolstering the global disarmament process. To conclude, allow me, on behalf of the Central Asian states, to express our gratitude to all member states that have supported the General Assembly resolution on the Central Asian Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone during its 75th session in December 2020. We express our common hope that working papers tabled by the Central Asian states will find support to the participating states of the 10th Review Conference of NPT and will contribute for the success outcome of the conference. We look forward to having productive discussion during this review conference to enhance global security, promote further cooperation, and sustain peace and prosperity in the world. I thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan for his statement on behalf of the countries of the Central Asian Nuclear Weapons Free Zone. And the next speaker on my list is His Excellency Julian Fota, Secretary of State for Strategic Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania. You have the floor.
Mr. President, at the outset, allow me to congratulate you on the assumption of your duties as the President of the 10th NPT Review Conference. Please accept my most sincere appreciation for the highly diligent and constructive way in which you led the preparatory process of this conference under the difficult circumstances generated by the COVID-19 pandemic. I also extend my gratitude to the members of the Bureau and the representatives of the UNODA who have supported you in the fulfillment of your responsibilities. Romania fully associates itself with the statement which will be delivered on behalf of the European Union. I will therefore limit myself to a few points in my national capacity. On the 5th of March 2020, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the entry into force of the NPT. For over half of a century, the treaty has contributed to strengthening international peace, security, and prosperity. The NPT is a historic success and continues to represent our best tool for the global efforts to achieve a world without nuclear weapons. Mr. President, Excellency, distinguished delegates, we are meeting today in a fundamentally altered security environment, marked by increased tensions and new global challenges and threats. While the past year offered some glimmers of hope with the extension of the New START Treaty, the establishment of US-Russia Strategic Stability Dialogue, and the P5 joint statement that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, the Russian illegal, unprovoked, and unjustified ongoing military aggression against Ukraine has reversed this progress. Russia's aggressive actions undermine the very foundation of international relations and the rule-based international order and heavily impacted all three pillars of the NPT regime. Russia has blatantly violated its commitment to refrain from the threat of or use of force against the territorial integrity of or sovereignty of Ukraine under the Budapest Memorandum of 1994. The loss of credibility of a nuclear weapon state that is not respecting its security assurances threaten to undermine the NPT and the entire disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. Moreover, the indiscriminate attacks of the Russian military at and around Ukrainian nuclear facilities have increased the risk of a nuclear accident with potentially severe consequences for human health and the environment. We urge the immediate withdrawal by the Russian Federation of its military and other personnel from Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant so that Ukrainian authorities can resume their sovereign responsibilities and that the legitimate operating staff can conduct their duties without pressure or interference. We express our full support for the work of the EEUU and its Director General to assist Ukraine in the area of nuclear safety and security and ensure safeguards implementation. This year, Romania facilitated the transit and provided support for IAEA the Director General and the inspectors on their way to Ukraine in the midst of the disturbing events putting the nuclear facilities in Ukraine at risk following the Russian invasion. We call on Russia to stop its illegal war, to cease its nuclear brinkmanship, to uphold its international commitments, to recommit to the principles enshrined in the P5 leaders' statement, and to engage constructively in genuine dialogue at this conference. Mr. President, I take this opportunity to briefly emphasize some of the most notable national contributions to the review conference and to the implementation of the treaty undertaken by my country. In 2019, Romania chaired the Disarmament and International Security Committee during the 73rd session of the General Assembly. In this capacity, Romania acted as an honest broker, including on matters directly related to the implementation and strengthening of NPT. In 2020, Romania organized and hosted in a virtual format the NATO Conference on Weapons of Mass Destruction, Arms Control, Disarmament, and Non-Proliferation. With more than 150 participants from over 50 countries, the conference provided the opportunity for a fruitful exchange of ideas and opinions between nuclear weapon states, non-nuclear weapon states, and representatives of international organizations, non-governmental organizations, and academia in preparation for this review conference. I also underline Romania's efforts as co-presidency together with Panama for a successful ICONS 2020, the high-level international conference on nuclear security, sustaining and strengthening efforts that took place in Vienna. The adoption by consensus of the ministerial declaration with that occasion, a concise, political-driven and forward-looking document, offered member states the opportunity to reaffirm the common goal of nuclear non-proliferation, nuclear disarmament, and peaceful use of nuclear energy. Mr. President, Romania remains fully committed to a world without nuclear weapons in accordance with the objective of the treaty and advocates a gradual and pragmatic process of nuclear disarmament based on a step-by-step approach, ensuring the undiminished security for all parties. Advancing towards this ultimate goal must take into account the global security environment, which has been further aggravated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. My country continues to believe that the main objective to be pursued in the field of nuclear disarmament remains the universality of NPT, the entry into force of the CTBT, and the negotiations at the Conference on Disarmament of a treaty banning the production of fissile material for use in nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices. Moreover, Romania welcomed and actively participated in the initiative launched by the United States of America, creating an environment for nuclear disarmament. We also recognize the added value that other initiatives, such as the Non-Proliferation and Disarmament Initiative and the Stockholm Initiative, have brought to the debate. Romania acknowledges the decline in nuclear arsenals since the end of the Cold War, mostly due to bilateral efforts by the two nuclear powers with the largest arsenals. Nevertheless, we stress the need to preserve and further advance arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation processes. As China's nuclear arsenal is rapidly increasing, we take this opportunity to call on China to uphold its international commitments under the NPT and join in good faith negotiations with the US and Russia on limitation on nuclear weapons and on measures to reduce risk and build confidence. Mr. President, the persistence of proliferation challenges and threats to international peace and security must be addressed in a resolute way in order to maintain the credibility and effectiveness of the NPT regime. NPT partners cannot ignore or remain silent on current proliferation challenges, such as those from Syria, Democratic Republic of Korea, and Iran. Besides, the changes in the Belarus non-nuclear status is another worrying development. While the REVCON is not the place to solve these challenges, it is essential to take stock of them so that we can work together to render the non-proliferation regime resilient against future challenges of non-compliance with or withdrawal from NPT. We reiterate our full and continued support in implementing the Safeguards Agreement and additional protocols, in promoting the benefits of peaceful use, and in verifying state compliance with their nuclear non-proliferation obligations. Developments and events over the past several years have underscored the critical role of the implementation of the IAEA Comprehensive Safeguards Agreements and the additional protocol. We stress that this constitutes the current verification standard under the NPT, and we call for their universalization without delay. Romania is one of the countries that develop a wide spectrum of activities in the field of peaceful application of nuclear science and technology, recognizing their major role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goal, ranging from R&D of radiopharmaceutical technologies to the preservation of cultural heritage. As a country with a relevant civilian nuclear program, Romania remains committed to strengthening global nuclear safety and security and highlights the importance of cooperation in the field of peaceful use of nuclear energy. In November 2021, the Romanian President Klaus Iohannis, together with the US Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry, announced Romania intends to build a first-of-a-kind US small modular reactor. By deploying US innovative clean technology, Romania is taking a bold step in advancing climate action and ensuring clean energy access throughout a critical part of Europe and the world. Mr. President, the success of this review conference depends on us, the state parties to the NPT. We genuinely hope that all delegations have come to New York prepared to find common ground, engage meaningfully, listen to each other, and to be ready for compromise. Despite our differences of opinion, it is important not to lose track of the significances of finding agreement on the future implementation of the treaty. Romania stands ready to work with its partners towards a successful 10th review conference and reaffirms its full support to achieving a comprehensive and balanced outcome which will allow progress on all three pillars, which are equally important and mutually reinforcing. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Secretary of State for Strategic Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania for his statement. And now it's my honor to give the floor to the State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Integration of the Republic of Moldova. The floor.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I am privileged and honored to address this conference on behalf of the Government of the Republic of Moldova. Allow me to join previous speakers in congratulating you on your appointment as the President of Conference. I would like to assure you of my delegation's full support and wish you every success in leading the work of this review conference towards the expected and consensual outcome. The Republic of Moldova aligns itself with the statement which will be delivered by the European Union. At the same time, I would like to highlight a few points in my national capacity. Regretfully, today's meeting is taking place in a very challenging period in our modern history. Russian Federation unprovoked military aggression against Ukraine is a tragedy for millions of people and affects the security and stability far beyond our region. The Republic of Moldova has strongly condemned this war from the first day, reaffirming its full support for the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. The military activities in and around Ukraine's nuclear sites, including the Chernobyl exclusion zone and Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, have been causing major concern from the very first days of the war and continue to pose a great risk for the entire continent. In this sense, the Republic of Moldova takes this opportunity to reaffirm the centrality of the NPT in the global nuclear non-proliferation regime. From this perspective, we cannot emphasize enough the importance of NPT universalization with the view of pursuing nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament as per Article 6 of the treaty in a good faith and in rules-based international system. While affirming its commitment to the foremost objective of the NPT to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, the Republic of Moldova attached great importance to the strict compliance with the NPT. At the national level, the Republic of Moldova also undertakes all necessary measures to prevent possible transfer through its territory of any components, materials, and technology related to weapons of mass destruction. Active engagement and cooperation with other countries and relevant international and regional organizations offers the opportunity to use and apply the expertise and best practices in this field and effectively contributes to the prevention and combating of illicit trafficking of radiological and nuclear materials. Mr. President, since the last review conference, we have gone through an extremely vulnerable and challenging period. We have not managed to agree on many essential for nuclear disarmament issues. However, our common objective remains clear and unchangeable: promotion of a strong commitment of all NPT states parties to the fully observed obligations under the treaty that will create a conducive international environment for risk reduction. Therefore, I would like to express my government's strong support for the Stockholm Initiative for Nuclear Disarmament that stipulates that full implementation of the treaty, including the complete elimination of nuclear weapons, remains the best way to eliminate nuclear risks. We fully agree that the review conference should also take practical steps towards a reduction of nuclear risk as part of broader disarmament efforts, notably calling for regular, in-depth, structured dialogue among nuclear weapons states, as well as all states parties on specific risk reduction measures. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, in conclusion, we hope that the conference will manage to overpass the existing divergences and will contribute to the prevention of the spread of the nuclear weapons and weapons technology, to promotion of cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy with the aim of achieving nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Ruslan Bolbosian, State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Integration of the Republic of Moldova, for his statement. And now I have the honor to give the floor to His Excellency Sang Wook Ham, Deputy Minister for Multilateral and Global Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. You have the floor.
Mr. President, congratulations on your long overdue official appointment as the President of the 10th NPT Review Conference. I also express my deep appreciation for your enormous and enduring efforts to bring all state parties together despite unprecedented challenges. The Republic of Korea stands ready to support you in every possible way to make this conference a success. Mr. President, over the past 50+ years, the NPT has served as the cornerstone of the global nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime and as an essential foundation for the pursuit of peaceful uses of nuclear energy. The NPT is the only near-universal treaty that can effectively address these three inseparable and mutually reinforcing pillars. Therefore, maintaining and strengthening the NPT regime is indispensable for international peace and security. This conference comes at a critical juncture. The credibility and relevance of the NPT are being questioned. We have witnessed dangerous and irresponsible nuclear rhetoric and threats to use nuclear weapons. Concerns are growing as transparency is decreasing regarding nuclear stockpile, posture, and operations, and gaps have widened in assessing progress in nuclear disarmament. Persistent challenges remain in the non-proliferation pillar. Nuclear safety and security have been seriously undermined by a dangerous attack on a nuclear power plant. This review conference should naturally focus on reaffirming our joint commitment and identifying concrete actions to advance all three pillars of this landmark treaty as we look to the next 50 years. First, today's complicated security environment underscores that genuine efforts by the nuclear weapon states are required to reduce nuclear risks and achieve progress in nuclear disarmament. The P5, in particular and among others, should assume their due and special responsibilities under Article 6 of the treaty. At the same time, the Republic of Korea believes that bridge building efforts, including the Stockholm Initiative and the creating environment for nuclear disarmament, can contribute to building trust and promoting real progress toward our shared goal of a world without nuclear weapons. Therefore, all nuclear weapon states are urged to positively consider the Stockholm Initiative's ambitious yet realistic stepping stones approach. Second, the IAEA-centered nuclear safeguards and verification regime should be strengthened. The Republic of Korea urges those state parties which have not yet adopted the Comprehensive Safeguards Agreement and the additional protocol to conclude and bring them into force without delay. As a strong supporter of the JCPOA, we encourage all relevant parties to return to genuine dialogue and find a path back to full compliance with the milestone agreement. Another top priority non-proliferation issue is the DPRK. While relentlessly developing nuclear and missile programs, the DPRK has been launching ballistic missiles at an unprecedented frequency, 31 this year alone, in flagrant violation of the UN Security Council resolutions. Furthermore, the DPRK is assessed to be technically ready for yet another nuclear test, which would be its 7th. The DPRK is the only country that abused the NPT regime and openly developed nuclear weapons. How we address the nuclear challenges by the DPRK at the NPT will not only serve as a message to the DPRK, but will be a litmus test on the viability of the NPT regime itself. We urge the DPRK to cease all kinds of provocations, comply with the UN Security Council resolutions, return to fully comply with the NPT at an early date, and denuclearize in a complete, verifiable, and irreversible manner. At the same time, we take this opportunity to make it clear that the door to dialogue remains open. Third, it is time to redouble our efforts to expand and enhance the cooperation for the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. As one of the major producers of the nuclear energy, the Republic of Korea has actively contributed to expanding the benefits of peaceful uses of nuclear energy. It should also be noted that securing the highest standard of nuclear safeguards, safety and security is a prerequisite for expanding peaceful uses. The Republic of Korea is determined to continue its leading role in improving nuclear safeguards, safety and security, and remains a staunch supporter of the IAEA's central role in this area. Mr. President, in closing, let me take this opportunity to reaffirm the Republic of Korea's unwavering commitment to strengthening the NPT regime hand in hand with state parties. We need to constructively engage and seize the opportunity for the sake of peace and prosperity. And we all know that the enduring relevance of the NPT itself is an important pillar in this regard. I thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Minister for Multilateral and Global Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea for his statements and for the kind words addressed to the Presidency. And now I have the honor to give the floor to His Excellency Akan Rahmetullind, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Mr. Gustavo Zlauvinin on assuming the chair of the 2022 NPT Review Conference. Let me assure you of our full support and cooperation in fully implementing your mandate. Despite the challenges that the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons has been facing, it undoubtedly remains a key cornerstone of the international security architecture and global non-proliferation regime. Kazakhstan has been a firm supporter to all of the three pillars of the treaty, standing for their equality, effective and fair implementation. The COVID-19 pandemic has clearly demonstrated the lethal blow it can inflict, together with challenges of other phenomena with equally devastating effects on humanity. Yet the threat of nuclear weapons is the deadliest of all, to avert which the United Nations has founded in 1945. However, this threat has persisted until now, with the UN seeking desperately to eliminate nuclear weapons, but with limited success. The continuing growing distrust is observed between nuclear and non-nuclear states, prevailing over the effectiveness and unconditional binding character of international agreements. However, the most dangerous factor is the lack of confidence between nuclear powers themselves, leading us to a new round of nuclear arms race in the future. The NPT has adopted precisely to prevent such foreboding developments. In this sense, dialogue and cooperation between nuclear weapon states are more important than ever before to reduce tension and the risk of escalation. We urge P5 states to positively consider concrete measures proposed by the Stockholm Initiative to advance nuclear disarmament and ensure that, in the interest of the humanity, nuclear weapons will never be used again. The decision Kazakhstan made 30 years ago on 29 August 1991 to close the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site contributed to raising the awareness of the necessity to eliminate nuclear weapons. Shortly thereafter, other nuclear test sites followed Semipalatinsk lead. This paved the way for the adoption of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty 5 years later after the closure of the Semipalatinsk test site. We believe that the voluntary moratorium on nuclear testing observed by the nuclear powers, though an important factor of nuclear security, cannot serve as the alternative to a legally binding document such as the CTBT. The early entry into force of this treaty is essential for effectively implementing the NPT. Therefore, we once again call on remaining Annex II states to ratify the treaty. Kazakhstan will do its utmost in its capacity as the chair of the first committee of the forthcoming 77th session of the UN General Assembly. We will endeavor to facilitate important decisions on the issues of disarmament, as well as global challenges and threats to peace that are impacting global growth and development. We welcome successful outcomes of the first meeting of state parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons held recently in Vienna. We hope that decisions of the first meeting of TPNW, motivated by our political will and deep commitment, will contribute for the goal of general and complete nuclear disarmament, which is essential for effectively implementing the NPT. Kazakhstan will preside over the third meeting states parties to the TPNW and will work closely and tirelessly to achieve our long-cherished aspirations towards a world free from nuclear weapons. Mr. Chair, I also like to take this opportunity to note that the Universal Declaration of the Achievement of a Nuclear Weapon-Free World, initiated by Kazakhstan, was adopted by the General Assembly in 2015 and reconfirmed in December 2018 and December 2021. The majority of UN member states have consistently voted in its favor, and I would like to thank all delegations who have supported this declaration. The issue of nuclear weapon-free zones are of increasing importance for Kazakhstan. With our regional neighbors, we created in 2006 a nuclear weapon-free zone in Central Asia. The relevant treaty, known as the Semipalatinsk Treaty, marked its 15th anniversary last year. We express hope that the United States will sign the protocol on negative security assurance to this treaty as soon as possible. We firmly support the further expansion of such zones in other geographic regions, including the Middle East, Northeast Asia, and Europe. Mr. Chairman, finally, I would like to point out that the third pillar of the NPT, namely the peaceful use of nuclear energy, by establishing the IAEA law-enriched uranium bank on its territory in 2017, Kazakhstan has made another significant contribution towards our common goal of safe and reliable use of uranium for peaceful purposes. To conclude, we stress the need for strong political commitment to secure a nuclear weapon-free world despite the current challenges. The beacon of hope should still keep shining and now allowed to go dim. In this all the more during these turbulent times for the region and the globe, that we must spare no efforts for peace and implement our solemn commitments. Kazakhstan will make every effort to ensure that we achieve the anticipated success we hope from this review conference. We stand steadfast to uphold and implement the NPT in the sure course towards total nuclear abolition and non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. I thank you very much for your attention.
I thank the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan for his statement. And now it's my honor to give the floor to His Excellency Tim Ayres, Assistant Minister for Trade of Australia. You may address the conference.
Mr. President, I offer my congratulations on your election as President of this review conference and assure you of Australia's full support. The NPT Treaty is a key success of the post-war multilateral project. It's the cornerstone of the global nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament regime. The treaty continues to deliver tangible security benefits for all of us, and as such, it must be preserved and it must be strengthened. At the heart of the NPT was always the goal of a world without nuclear weapons, a goal to which Australia remains profoundly committed. At this conference and beyond, each of us must work to forestall the catastrophic humanitarian consequences that await all of us unless we take real steps toward the elimination of nuclear weapons. Mr. President, the challenges to the NPT have never been greater. As we undertake the important work of reviewing our progress in implementing the treaty since 2015, we need to acknowledge that the global security environment has further deteriorated, and international security is being undermined by those who seek to resolve disputes by power and size instead of by international rules and international norms. Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine and its nuclear brinkmanship is a stark example. Australia condemns this senseless aggression and calls upon Russia to cease hostilities and to withdraw immediately. North Korea continues the development of its illegal and destabilising nuclear and ballistic missile programs. In Australia, we remain deeply concerned by Iran's failure to comply with its NPT safeguards agreement in a full and transparent manner. This situation cannot persist indefinitely. For Australia, these serious challenges only reinforce the need for us to work constructively together, whatever our differences as sovereign nations, for a common purpose, to make the world safe from nuclear weapons. The NPT provides vital architecture for us to come together as states, to raise our concerns, to put forward ideas and find ways to move forward together. At this conference, Australia will continue our proud tradition of advocating for realistic and practical measures that take us closer toward our goals. We commit to work constructively with all states parties to this end. Mr. President, Australia strongly supports the International Atomic Energy Agency's crucial role in supporting this treaty. The international safeguards regime is essential for global confidence in the nuclear non-proliferation regime. The benefits of the NPT reach far beyond security. The peaceful uses of nuclear energy and technologies, including in human health, agriculture and the environment, have helped people around the world thrive. Australia continues to support the IAEA's excellent work in facilitating access to these peaceful benefits by all states. Mr. President, last September, Australia, the United States and the United Kingdom announced the beginning of a trilateral effort towards Australia's acquisition of nuclear-powered, conventionally armed submarines, as is provided for in the NPT, the IAEA statute and our own comprehensive safeguards agreement. All three partners are committed to upholding our legal obligations and to strengthening the integrity of the non-proliferation regime. Let me repeat, we will not simply uphold, but we will strengthen the integrity of the regime. Australia is proceeding transparently, engaging closely with the IAEA and providing updates to the international community as we move through the 18-month consultation period. Earlier today, Director General Grossi confirmed to this conference that this vital work on non-proliferation safeguards is well underway. We acknowledge the interests of some state parties in this development, and we encourage delegates to consider our working paper and to engage with our delegation should you have questions. The Australian team is here, ready, able and willing to engage with the questions of other delegates. Mr. President, in Australia and in the Pacific and in other parts of the world, the impact of nuclear weapons testing has been disproportionately by First Nations lands and First Nations peoples. Mr. President, I want to thank Prime Minister Bainimarama for his statement on behalf of parties to the South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone, all members of the Pacific family of which Australia is proud to be a part. The resolve to maintain a nuclear weapons-free and independent Pacific and the dogged determination of the Pacific states shall be a clarion call to this conference to rebuild momentum toward total disarmament. Australia is pleased to see and supports the increasing attention on diversity in the advocacy and technical work around disarmament, including efforts to increase the number of women engaged in this work. There should be more women at these conferences and in all of the associated fora. Ultimately, the elimination of nuclear weapons is the only way of securing a safe and peaceful world. Australia and the new Albanese government remain steadfastly committed to that objective and to putting our shoulder behind the wheel with all of you to rebuild momentum towards this most noble of objectives. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Assistant Minister for Trade of Australia for his statement. Next speaker on my list is His Excellency Carlos Sorreta, Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs and International Economic Relations of the Department of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines. You may address the conference.
Mr. President, I wish to congratulate you. It has been a long road, yet here we are. Our commitment to this treaty emanates from my people's aspirations to achieve freedom from the threat of nuclear weapons and forge a path to sustainable development that includes harnessing the potential of nuclear energy. These aspirations are enshrined in our Constitution, affirmed in our legislation, and it also inspired us to accede to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. In recent years, we have seen the emergence of serious obstacles to these aspirations. Widening geopolitical polarities and sharpening strategic competitions have put enormous strains on the rules-based international order, of which our treaty is an important component. In our region, we see challenges to nuclear non-proliferation, modernization of nuclear arsenals, lack of functional strategic dialogue mechanisms, and refusals to heed the call of the international community for greater transparency in fulfilling nuclear disarmament commitments. We reject the notion that nuclear weapons contribute to stability and security. These weapons pose catastrophic humanitarian risks, and their continued existence imperils us all. They are repugnant to global public conscience and have since been outlawed by the TPNW. We further reject the notion that nuclear disarmament obligations and commitments are contingent upon any subjective assessment of the international security environment. The credibility and strength of the rules-based order rests on predictability, rests on stability, which leaves no room for such subjectivity or ambiguity. All states parties must uphold their commitments under the 13 practical steps in the 64-point action plan. The onus, Mr. President, to rid the world of nuclear weapons remains on the shoulders of the nuclear weapon states. They must make meaningful progress to reduce and eliminate all types of nuclear weapons in a transparent manner, and to further diminish the role that these weapons play in their military and security concepts, doctrines, or policies. We support efforts towards nuclear risk reduction as an intervening measure, while we work towards the total elimination of nuclear weapons. Nuclear risk reduction is not a means to legitimize nuclear weapons' continued existence or a substitute to nuclear disarmament. Nuclear safeguards are an essential component of the non-proliferation regime, Mr. President. We continue to cooperate with the IAEA as regards our comprehensive safeguard agreements and its additional protocol. We also champion reasonable strategic trade management, which benefits multilateral export control regimes. Our adherence to the highest standards of non-proliferation should be matched by the same level of commitment by the nuclear weapon states to fulfill their end of the great grand bargain. They must, without delay, undertake effective, universal, unconditional, non-discriminatory, irrevocable, and legally binding negative assurances, security assurances to non-nuclear weapon states. The regrettable decision of some nuclear weapon states to upgrade the role of their nuclear forces in their security doctrines, the lack of transparency and functioning dialogue mechanisms among them, and continued risk of instability in the geopolitical environment, including in the Asia-Pacific, demands that nuclear weapon states issue such assurances. Such assurances must be issued without conditions. This matter requires most urgent discussion in this conference. We further urge nuclear weapon states to accede to all nuclear weapons-free zones, including, of course, the Bangkok Treaty and its protocols. The global situation compels us to situate ourselves in a broader context beyond international security. We have just emerged from a pandemic that caused an unprecedented economic and debt crisis and reversed fragile development gains. The devastating effects of climate change now pose a serious and urgent threat to humanity's future, to our very existence. The peaceful uses of nuclear energy thus offer feasible solutions for addressing some of these challenges and keeps us on track to achieving 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Along with other nuclear weapon states, the Philippines asserts our inalienable right to peaceful uses of nuclear energy. This right cannot be downgraded to a privilege. We recognize and commit our responsibilities and legal obligations in the exercise of these rights. State parties, Mr. President, are bound together by the mandate to make this conference meaningful. We call on all parties to engage constructively and sincerely in this regard. The Philippines has continued to contribute in no small measure in ways to achieve salience and strength of this treaty in the past and will continue to do so. My delegation intends to be actively engaged throughout the conference to see that we achieve our common purpose with a successful outcome. For it has truly been, Mr. President, a long road, rocky at times, but one that we must take for our 50-year-old treaty to remain relevant, the bedrock upon which the global disarmament, non-proliferation, and security regime is built and stands today. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs and International Economic Relations of the Department of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines for his statement. Next in my list is Her Excellency Hildegard Notund, Minister of State at the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications, and at the Department of Transport of Ireland. You may address the conference, Madam.
President, allow me first to offer my congratulations on your election as President of this conference, and I can assure you of my delegation's full support in your efforts to achieve a positive outcome. I am proud to address you today as Ireland's first woman head of delegation to an NPT review conference. I'm pleased that this review cycle is the first to substantively address gender perspectives, and I hope that this will be comprehensively reflected in the outcome. President, there is no escaping the fact that our conference takes place at a dark moment. The world faces heightened nuclear danger. The Russian Federation, a nuclear weapons state, a depository state of this very treaty, has made alarming nuclear threats and is engaged in a war of aggression against another state party to this treaty. Russia's further invasion of Ukraine, its nuclear rhetoric, and its reckless military actions in and near civilian nuclear facilities threatens all three pillars of the NPT. Ireland reiterates our strongest support for the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. I recall that in January of this year, the 5 nuclear weapon states, including Russia, declared that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. It is deeply regrettable that Russia's actions have called into question its ongoing commitment to this declaration. President, it is our collective responsibility at this review conference to agree how we can move forward together. To do this, we must honestly acknowledge the absence of concrete progress on nuclear disarmament since the last review conference. Article 6 of the NPT, together with our existing commitments, provide the framework to achieve a world without nuclear weapons. They must be honoured and must be implemented. Regrettably, since the last review conference, we have seen move towards greater reliance on nuclear weapons in security doctrines. Nuclear weapon states are making qualitative improvements to their weapon systems. Nuclear arsenals are increasing in numbers and diversity. Reductions in transparency increase the risk of escalation and miscalculation. These trends, together with the current heightened nuclear risks, reinforce the need to urgently implement the unequivocal undertaking of the nuclear weapon states to accomplish the total elimination of their nuclear arsenals. Despite the current difficult context, we reiterate that disarmament and effective arms control is more vital than ever. Ireland calls for this conference to agree immediate actions, including on nuclear risk reduction and practical measures to facilitate concrete reduction of nuclear weapons. Specific recommendations are set out in our working papers during the review cycle. President, the current context also gives us pause to consider the devastating humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons. Any use of nuclear weapons would have immediate and long-term consequences, creating a devastating humanitarian crisis and emergency significantly beyond the response capacity of states or international organizations. I welcome the adoption of the Vienna Declaration of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which sends a clear message of alarm and dismay at threats to use nuclear weapons and unequivocally condemns any and all nuclear threats, whether they be explicit or implicit and irrespective of the circumstances. The outcome of the Vienna meeting successfully demonstrated the value of the TPNW for its states parties as a pathway to fulfilling Article 6 obligations. The TPNW is fully compatible with and complements the MPT. We hope to see the positive contribution of the TPNW reflected in the outcome document of this meeting. President, Ireland is deeply concerned about rising proliferation challenges. Ireland attaches equal importance to the non-proliferation provisions of the treaty and has demonstrated this, including through our chairmanship of the Missile Technology Control Regime. Since the last review conference, we witnessed the successful conclusion and, for a time, the implementation of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. It was deeply regrettable that the US left the agreement. It was also deeply regrettable that Iran began to take steps that today raise very serious proliferation concerns. Full implementation by Iran of the JCPOA, including full cooperation with the IAEA on monitoring and verification, together with resolving outstanding safeguards issues, is the only way for the international community to have confidence in the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. Ireland considers the nuclear-related activities by the DPRK as a matter of utmost concern. It is long past time for DPRK to take concrete steps towards complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and to end its other WMD and ballistic missiles programs. DPRK must return to compliance with the NPT. President, Ireland commends the unique and indispensable role of the IAEA across the areas of nuclear energy, safety, and security, and in the implementation of the NPT. Ireland strongly supports the universal adherence to the additional protocol and considers that the comprehensive safeguards arguments and the additional protocol constitute the current verification standard under the NPT. It is imperative that, at this review conference, we seize the opportunity to strengthen the safeguards system which underpins the effective implementation of this treaty. Finally, Ireland underscores the inalienable rights of all parties to the NPT to develop research, produce and use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, and recognises that the IAEA's 7 pillars of nuclear safety and security are vital enablers of this right. In the Cold War era, the world regularly stood on the brink of nuclear catastrophe. With the adoption of the NPT, the international community took a decisive step back from the abyss. I am proud of Ireland's role in the creation of the NPT, a major contribution of international peace and security. The NPT reminds us that even in the most dangerous of times, progress is not only needed, but is possible. All states parties have an obligation to work for a safer world for current and future generations, a world that does not include the spectre of nuclear weapons. I can assure you, President, Ireland is ready to play our part. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of State at the Department of the Environment, Climate and Communications and at the Department of Transport of Ireland for her statement. Next in my speak is His Excellency Lasha Darzalia, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia. You may address the conference.
When an irresistible force such as you meets an old immovable object like me, you can bet just as sure as you live, something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give. When an irrepressible smile such as yours warms an old implacable heart such as mine, don't say no, because I insist. Somewhere, somehow, someone's gonna get kissed. So on guard, who knows what the fates have in store from their vast, mysterious sky. I'll try hard, ignoring those lips I adore. But how long can anyone try? Fight it with all of our might. Chances are some heavenly star-spangled night we'll find out just as sure as we live. Something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give. gotta give.
Radio Suisse Jazz. Swiss made by SRG SSR.
say that the songs I sing are blue, and maybe what they say just might be true. But let me tell you, this is the way I really feel, and everything I do, it's not fake, it's real. And I'm not ashamed to sing the blues. Oh, I'm not ashamed to sing the blues. Some people say that the blues are really done, but they just don't know. They don't know where I'm coming from. And I just want to tell you, it's the way I feel inside. It's love and happiness that put tears in your eyes. And I'm not ashamed to sing the blues. Oh, I'm not ashamed to sing the blues. Some people say that my songs are just too sad. I don't think so when I think about the fun I've had.